All right. Hello and welcome back. This week we're going to kind of move on from the Slack/app. I think we did a lot of cool things with it. But I had a request to do a CRUD app, and I am so tired of doing to-do lists. I think they become like the new hello world of apps. I think everybody has built at least one, and so I wanted to kind of come up with something different. So let's get to it. Switch over to here. But first, I wanted to mention the last 2 weeks we were doing the Stitch Slack app, Slack command, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Michael Lynn's blog post that he wrote. So if you like what we were doing, but you want to see how it's done in 10 minutes, he's got a great little video here, and then actually walks through the steps of creating it. So if you like to read how things are done, rather than going back and watching me fumble through it, this is great. I'll make sure to link this in the video, so everybody can go take a look. Done. All right. So as for today, I watch a lot of movies. Um, I used to have MoviePass. I now have AMC A-List, and neither of those services are endorsing this stream, FYI. But currently, I'm on A-List, so that allows me to watch 3 movies a week. So what, 12 movies a month on the regular, and I like to track the movies that I see to make sure that I'm getting value out of the service. And so what I'm doing currently is I've created this crazy spreadsheet. I love creating spreadsheets, especially Google Sheets, because if you want to do anything further, you can do it in JavaScript, so that's nice. But I keep track of all the movies that I have watched underneath the AMC A-List program, and the price the ticket would have been. And then that allows me to do some cool like roll-up summaries of how many movies I've watched total since I've been on it, the value, which is the total value, or the savings, which is like the total value. So if you sum up all those columns, um, and then subtract, how much you're paying for the membership, and then keeping track of like how much I'm paying per movie, which is pretty cool. So if we go over to the membership tab, this is where I put in each time I pay for the membership, and it kind of keeps track of like the range, and so I can pull out how many movies I've seen each month. Yeah, I'm averaging like 7 movies a month, but I feel like I'm getting a lot of value out of it. Um, for those of you who don't know, like my background, like when I went to high school, I was the movie guy. I worked in the video store. I think a lot of people don't remember those, or remember those as boxes. Maybe they're red, maybe they're blue. Uh, but I was the movie store guy, and I watched a lot of movies, and I still watch a lot of movies. So big movie geek. Um, and so this is something that I want to be able to put into an app. Um, Obviously, the first step is to be able to enter in all the movies. So that's going to be our kind of basic CRUD app that we're going to be building today. And then I want to be able to do different things like link the movies to IMDb, and then actually have friends join this, and then I can mark on the movies which friends I go and see it with. I think that would be really cool. So there's a lot that I want to do with this, but to get started, let's just build out the CRUD so we can add the movies that we see, um, delete them, update them, and do all that. So we'll get that taken care of today, hopefully. So I've gone ahead, and I know I usually spend a lot of time building out authentication, and it's always the same. So I went ahead and kind of scaffold an app together. I'm choosing to use Google authentication. So that's really easy. I can log in, and it will prompt me for a sign in. And so I'm going to use that one. And then it basically just goes to an authenticated page. So it gets redirected back, and tells me welcome, and I got a log out button, so I can log back out. Easy peasy. Cool. So to kind of quickly go through, this is the Stitch app that I have created for it. Whoops. And all I've done is I've gone in here and gone into the users. I've clicked in the providers. I've chosen Google. I put in my client ID. Excuse me. My client secret. The redirect URI or right now is going to be my local host. If I wanted to do Stitch hosting and publish this externally, I would have to add that URI in there as well, but I haven't done that yet, so it's fine. And then I went ahead and checked all the metadata fields because I think they're kind of fun to see. But the one that I'm using is first name and picture right now. If you were building this yourself and you wanted to lock it down to a domain, so only people at mongodb.com could log in, you can add that domain restriction. But right now it's just kind of open and anybody can log in. And that's all I've set up so far in the Stitch app. If we go over to the code, this is just your basic Create React app application. And I've done just a few things. So I've already did the npm installs for MongoDB Stitch Browser SDK. I'm using Semantic UI React, so that family of components, like I usually do. And I've gone ahead and set it up to do the login as I just demoed. So very simply, here's my app ID, the initial state. Whenever the component mounts, it's going to create my client, and it's going to go ahead and create an instance of the MongoDB remote client, which we're going to use for the CRUD. And then it sets the state, handles the redirect URL, all of that for the Google authentication. So really, our render function just checks to see if we're authed. If we're authed, we're going to show that menu, and if not, we're going to show the login control. And so the login control, we can pass in a login function with the Google redirect auth. It's really quite simple. We just create a credential using the Google redirect credential and pass it in this function that's off of this.client.auth. So we just log in with redirect, and that's going to redirect us to Google, which will redirect back to this page. And so that's why in the component.didMount, we need to check to see if we have this redirect result. So that's actually looking in our URL for the query string parameter that gets thrown on. A lot of stuff going on. Went through it really quick, but we can log in. That's great. So we don't have to deal with all of that. But I wanted to make sure that I spun up the app and installed things for npm and things like that, so we're not having any lag, dead air, so we can just get right into the CRUD of things. Cool. So how are we going to do this? I haven't put a lot of thought into it, so we're going to figure things out as we go along. I want to focus on this tab, so the movies that we watched. So today I want to make sure that we can log movies that have been watched, and that's simply going to be a date, the title of the movie, and then the price you would have paid. So we're going to keep track of all of that, and then we'll throw on something like an owner ID, so we can say who it belongs to. That will work for now. If we want to do that thing where we can add people that we've watched the movie with and have them be able to view it and things like that, we can change the rules up later and figure that out. But just the basic CRUD of adding the movies, I think, is a good thing to tackle for today. So let's go back to our Stitch console. Before we can start playing with doing things or start playing with the database, we need to create a rule. So under MongoDB clusters, you can see the rules here. And currently there are no collections because this is a fresh install. So we're going to add a collection. And I'm going to name the database. I'm using the same M0 cluster I've been using for all of these. 512 meg goes a long way. So I'm going to call this one A-List Tracker. And we're going to store the movies in a movies collection. And we are going to do very simple, we're going to use a template here. And so For now, I'm going to lock it down to where users can only read and write their own data. So if you enter it, only you have access to it. And for the name of the user ID field, we're just going to go ahead and call that owner ID. And basically what we'll do is we'll use the user ID that's brought back to us in the this.client.auth.user.id. And that's the way that we're going to link that information together. So we're going to add that collection. Oh, okay. So apparently we must have a database created. So let me go over to Data Explorer. I'm going to open this in a new tab. Should have had that open. Trying to save time. All right, so we'll go into our collections. Okay, we're going to create a database. So the database name is going to be A-list-tracker. And for the collection name, we're going to have movies. Not going to be a capped collection. We're just going to create. And whenever it refreshes, we have a database here for A-List tracker, and we have the movies collection, which is empty. So now we can go back and fill out this information. Okay. I think because we did it over in another window and we haven't refreshed, it's not going to pull it in for us automatically. Oh, well, now it says it does it. I don't know what happened right there. Movies. Oh. I see what it is. Whenever you type the thing in, you actually have to click down there where it says new. So it would have created one for us. New. Okay, well, let's see if it works. Awesome. All right, so we have our database and our collection, and we have our rules set up. And that's really all we're going to be doing in the Stitch console for right now. Yeah, awesome. So let's go back over to our code. And we're going to have to do some things. So let's create a component. Because I'm thinking I'm just going to have, because it's only like 3 fields that we're capturing, I'll put them horizontally at the top, and then you can just have an add button, and then it will update the feed below. So I want to break that out into another component. So new file. This is going to be the add movie form. Sure, kind of long, but it works. And we're going to import React and component from React. And then, let's see, how did I do that? Okay, so I did a stateless component there, but this is going to have state because we're putting things into a form. So we're going to have class add movie form, and it's going to extend component, and that's going to have a constructor. Props, we're going to super the props. Yes, it's going to have some kind of initial state. We'll do that in a minute. And it's going to have a render function, so we need to start building this form. All right. So we're going to bring in, I'm going to copy this from over here. Oh, I didn't do it in there. Oh yeah, because it's just a button. So the login form is just a button. No big deal. So we're going to import, and we're going to need a form from semantic UI React. So we're just going to return, return a form. So we'll save that for right now. Yeah, it's like you make all these different forms all the time, and you have to like look it up every time. It's fine, but we have enough now that we can bring this component in. So let's import add movie form from movie form. Okay, and we are going to need to put that. So the menu is sitting in a container, so I can add this right after the menu. Add movie form, and I want to pass in a function to handle adding it. So I want to write the function on the app level where I have access to the client, everything, and push it down into the component. So I'm going to call it handle add movie, and that is going to be equal to this dot add movie, and then we will create that up above. Oops. So I'm going to put it right here. So we're going to handle add. We're just going to call add movie. Add movie equal to. I'm going to be doing some async stuff, so we'll put that in. All right, so that's the function. We're going to do that here in a minute once we get some things up on there. So let's go over and take a look at semantic React. So we are doing some form stuff. Okay. Let's see if we can grab one of their. Oh, that's the HTML. So try it. Okay, so I have some code. I'm looking up here that I've done this over and over again. Okay, so we're going to make this a submit form. So let's go over back to the add movie form. And so that means we're going to do a on submit. And we're going to call, what do I call these functions, actually? We just probably put it in here. It's not going to be that big. So it's going to be a function, and let's, okay, so here, const handle add movie. Is that what we called it? Yeah, handle add movie. Equal this dot props. So we have that. So we're going to need to call the function we're passed in. and we're going to end up getting things from state. So those items are going to be, I'm trying to think of date is a good, is a reserved word still. A date, title, and a price. Cool. So we got that from state, and then we're going to call handle add movie with that. I wonder if I should just pass it state. Because I want to pass it, just pass it an object, because I don't really care about the order of the parameters. That's all the data that's going to go into the movie. So yeah, I'll just pass it the state. And I can just structure it on the other side. Okay, so we'll handle add movie. And then we want to clear out those things. So let's go ahead and put in our default state. So we know we're going to have, well, I just typed it out and then I deleted it. That was very smart. So we're going to have a date, which is null. We are going to have a title, empty. Actually, the date's probably going to be empty as well. And a price, which is going to be empty. We'll deal with changing the types on the other side. So yeah, I'll also make that an empty string instead of null, because it's going to come in as the date. Cool. So we're going to handle the add movie, and then we'll do then result. So basically, if it's successful, we're going to do this dot set state. And we're going to pass it this default state. And I missed something right here. Right. Okay, so then this dot set state, and I missed something again. Cool. So otherwise, that would be a good place to display the error, but I'll do that later. All right, so here's our form. Let's open it up so we can start putting some inputs in there. So let's go look and see what we have for inputs. Input. Input, there we go. Okay, I think there's like an input group. Form. How do I make these look pretty? Well, so we're also going to need input. I think it's actually in the form. Form is the group. That makes sense semantically. What? It does this thing whenever you click on it, it like refreshes that section and it moves your mouse. So we want this kind, wait, that kind gets CN, no, group variations. Cool, let's see what we got from here. Form group, and then form fields with the labels and inputs. Okay. So inside the form, we're going to have a form.group. And then inside there, we're going to have form.field. And that's going to have a label. I think we need to bring that in. Oh, it's a regular label. Okay. Label. And it's going to be date. We'll skip that one for right now, because I'm going to bring in another field type. So we got date. Here we've got title. And here we have price. Okay, so for this, we're going to do an input with a capital I, so we can use our component. And can we do anything cool with the input for money? Variations. Whoops. Okay. Label inverted for size. Types. Okay, that's the input usage. All right, let's not get too crazy. All right, so with the input field, we need a name, and that is going to be equal to the name in the state. That just makes things easier. So this is going to be title. Let's go ahead and mark it as required. And the default value is going to come from state. So let's go ahead and destructure some that stuff out. Const date title price equal to this dot state. Okay, and so title. And then we need an on change. And so what that's going to do is whenever you change the value, it's going to update the state. And that's how we're going to keep track of the values that we are putting in. And that's going to just be this dot handle change. That's all we need for that. And then we're going to copy this because it's going to be very similar for price. Okay, and actually, let's just go ahead and we'll not worry about a date selector yet, just yet. Okay, so this one's going to be date, price, price. And we need this handle on change function, so let's do that. And so handle change is equal to have an event, and then we're going to have a name and a value. Let's structure that out. And so this is a function that I pretty much copy and paste around because it's actually one of the examples in the semantic React UI. But I'm just going to copy and paste this over. It's basically going to take those parameters and update the state, except the one that I grabbed it from. All that is in user input. So I just need to take this level out. Cool. And take out the user input. So what it's doing is it's spreading the previous state and adding in the new value and updating the new value. Pretty easy. Okay, so we should have enough to where we can see things happening. We don't have a submit button. Maybe we should go ahead and throw that on there. So after, is it after form group? Where do you put the, let's see what the example is. Where are you at? Form, and group. Where's the button? Button. So that's outside the checkbox, but I think if we put it inside a form field, it will put it along the same line. So let's do form.field. And we're going to do form dot, dot button. And we're going to set the type equal to submit. And let's make it primary. And we'll go with the default size for right now. So let's save that and see what we've got. Lost my live dashboard. Okay, so it should have refreshed. Oh, great. Does not contain a default export. Oh. Oops, let's go right there. Okay, so the one thing that I forgot to do is this part down here. So export default, add movie form. Now it should pop up. So let's recompile. Oh, and I'm not logged in, so that's fine. Click on that one. Ooh, okay, so I need to make that fluid, I think, so it will go the full way. But the other thing I want to do in here is just put in a console log so we know that things are flowing. So we have this add movie. This is going to be data for right now. And I'm just going to do console.log data. And so that's just going to spit out everything that we've already done, or everything we put in there. Did I not put a title in for the button? I did not. Say add. Waiting. Hey, oh, add button, sweet. Okay, so we'll say 2/23/2019, title, movie title, and the price, $20. So if we hit add, we get all of our stuff back. So that's cool. That's wired up. So now we have enough to do an insert. It's probably, yeah, it's good enough. Let's go ahead and get an insert done. So we go back over here and we're going to be working with this add movie function. And what I'm going to do is instead of data, I'm going to actually destructure that out. So we know we are passing over a date, a title, and a price. And we're going to say date is equal to new date, date. So that way we can make sure that goes in as a date and pray to the JavaScript gods that that works. We're relying a lot on happy path right now, and I can go through and fix that later. But then we're also going to do price is equal to parse float price. So at least it will go in as not a string or an integer. Integer won't help because we need decimal. So we've done some cleanup there. And so we haven't done anything with title yet, but now we can use what we set up here in this component did mount. We have access to this MongoDB instance, and so it's using the remote Mongo client service for MongoDB Atlas. So that's very handy. And so to do an insert, we can just call this dot MongoDB, and then we know our database is called A-List-tracker. It's like, do we know it? And then we can get an instance of our collection, which is movies. So that gets all the way to the collection level, and with this, we have access to insert one. So insert one is a function that will insert a document. It will insert only a single document. There's also insert many if you were doing something where you were inserting many at a time, but we're just going to focus on this one. And so we need to pass it a document. And in that document, we are going to have all the information that we just passed in. So we're going to have date, title, price, and then we're going to pass it one more field, and it's going to be that owner ID underscore ID. And we are going to get that by using this.client.auth.user.id. So this is information on the user that's currently logged in. It's going to be a GUID, and it's going to write it there, and that's what's going to be used by the rules to say you're allowed to see this information, or this document. You're allowed to modify it and to view it, because that's the way we have the rules set up. So this really should be everything we need for the insert. Hit save. And we're going to return this because this is going to return a promise with a result. And in our UI over in the add movie form, that's where we would handle it. So if there was an error that that happened, we could do a catch and write some UI that would display the error message. Or like what we have now is we have the then handling resetting the form back to blank. So let's get rid of this. And we're just going to simply return this result. And I do want to console.log up here, just so console.log date, title, price. So that way I can see what's happening with these parses and the new dates to make sure it's working. All right, so now we can go back over here. Data is not defined. Did I forget to delete something? Oh. Because nope, that's right. Where are we using data? Oh, okay, it was just refreshing. False alarm, it's fine. So we'll go ahead and choose this and our price, and we'll hit add. Okay, so here is, so February 23rd, so that worked. Parsing the date, like that worked. Price, it parsed it as 20 because there was no decimal, and movie title. And it looks like nothing happens, but we haven't actually written any UI to display what we just wrote. But if we go back over to our cluster, let's refresh. And we should see the document inside there. So it's very easy to insert something into the database. So here is our newly created document. So we have our date, we have our title, the price, and then the owner ID. So if we actually, let's see if we go to edit this, you can see it's coming over as int32. And if we wrote that as like 20.0, it would have put it in as a decimal. So that's, we can fix that. We can fix that later. Yeah. But now let's work on actually displaying the information that comes back. So to do that, first we will grab the information. And so I'm going to write a function called getMovies. And I keep writing this as async. I don't know if I'm going to need it. I'll just go ahead and make it an async function. It's fine. If I don't use it, it's fine. That's my happy little trees. It's fine. Okay, so like up above, we're going to use this .mongodb, and I'm going to go ahead and return it. So return this .mongodb.db. Actually, let's copy that. db.collection.movies, so we can get back down to our collection. And then we're going to do .find, yeah, just find. And how do we want to put a sort on these? I want to find everything, so I can leave that null. Do I need a, it's like, do you want to see the latest one first? We can figure that out later, but .find, and then just so everybody knows, if you just leave it as .find, that actually returns a cursor object. It doesn't return an array of documents, and that's what we want to deal with on the front end. And so to get that, you just do toArray. In past versions of the JavaScript SDK, it's been asArray. Right now, both of them work, but I believe asArray is deprecated. So you should just get used to using toArray, which is fine. And that will get formatted whenever I save it. And so whenever I call this, it's going to return a promise with the results in an array. And so I'll use this function up here in my component did mount. So whenever it loads, if we are authenticated, we are also going to, we can do const movies equals await this dot get movies. So because this is an async function, we can await the response for movies, and we can get it right there, and then we can just go ahead and pass that into the state. Okay, so we got that function, got it used here. Because we're throwing it in the state, we should probably put a default state. So a good default state for movies would be an empty array. So we'll know how to handle that pretty well. Okay. How are we doing on time? We're 45 minutes in, and we're just about to display things. All right, that's fine. So let's create another component. New file. We're going to call this movie list. And we're just going to import React from React. And we're going to do a stateless component here. We're going to do a couple components. So we're going to have const movie list is equal to, so right now it's going to be props. And it's going to go to a function where we are going to return some JSON. But I don't know which one we're going to use yet. Let's see. So if we go over here, we got different kinds of group elements. So we got cards, we got comments. What's that look like? Not exactly. We can do it as a table. Look at that. I don't know why that's so slow. So we could do it as a table. That's kind of boring. Why not? So what do we got? We got, we're going to pull in table from from Semantic UI React. Import table from Semantic UI React. And we are going to return table element. The table celled. I guess that means the lines. So we're going to have a table header with a table row. This is going to be like real old style web dev where like everything was spit out in tables. I could possibly change that later. What did I do? I think I got rid of an element or I didn't copy one. There we go. All right, and so we've got date, we've got title, we've got price, and then we're going to add another cell, which we'll use here. Or actually, let's make it, because we need a third row for actions that we can take on it. But we'll make that just kind of an empty one. So we've got the header, and then we got the footer. Do we need a footer? No, we don't need a footer right now. We need a body, and we're going to loop over information. Okay, so instead of props, we're going to be getting back an array of movies. So we'll just call that movies. And after the header, we got table dot body. And we've got table rows. Okay. So this is where we're going to map over movies. So we can do movies.map. And that's going to give us a movie. And we need to return some JSX. So we need to do a table.row and table.cell. So we're going to do 4 of these. Okay, one thing that we need to do, because we're mapping over this, we need to remember to put a key in. And so a good key to use whenever you are using MongoDB is the _ID. So it's a good, unique, real value. So it'd be movie._ID. And now we just need to put in the values here. So I'll do one, so movie dot date, and it's going to look funny because we're not formatting it yet, but we'll get through it. Movie dot title, and we got price. So we're not formatting anything, we're just outputting it as we got it. And then this one's going to be empty for right now, so I'll probably close that off. So we are returning a table element. We've got the header. We are mapping over movies to generate the body. That should be good. Don't want to do the same mistake. So let's do an export default movie list. It's actually a table now. It's probably would have been a better name, but it could change into some kind of list later. You can't tell me what to do. So let's go back over into app and use it. So we're going to import movie list from components movie list. Save that. Now let's actually throw it onto the board, and we can put that right underneath our add movie form. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to conditionally put it on there for if we have movies. So I need to pull movies out of the state. And so I'm going to say movies.length and this is our movie list, which has a parameter of movies that we're going to pass movies. We can close it. So that should display the single movie that we have put in. Dun, 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 dun. Here we go, that's refreshing. Oh, of course that wouldn't work on the first try. Failed prop in invalid prop child. So we have upset we've upset the table. All right. So let me take a look. So table.cell. That should be fine. Okay, so what did we do over here? Table.row, table.cell. So we got a table. Oh, I wonder if it doesn't like the fact that this is empty. Let's see if we can do a little trick like that. You know what? Let's see. So it looks like it didn't like cells being empty. It's doing a lot of refreshing. Well, okay. Table cell 19. Huh, okay. Oh, it's getting mad because if I do .toString, it's not going to automatically toString it. Hey, okay. Well, there it is. Um, it's not pretty, but it is in a table. And we can do another one. And 2019, another movie. And let's do 20.1. And whenever we add, oh, that's a good thing. So whenever we hit add, we need to refresh. And that's something we didn't write in. So we need to call get movies. And let's see, add movie. So returning this. I think I can just do then this get movies. So that's going to refresh and it's going to pull it from that initial one. Okay, so we got 2 right now. Let's do 226, 2019. Not another movie. 23, 23. And when we add, did not work. Hold on, let me see how I did this in another thing. Because I kind of like the way I did it, and then I forgot. What happens when you walk away from things for so long? Okay, save file. Save entry. Because I broke these up. File upload. Right. Okay. So I can't really do that. Am I actually just returning anything or? Oh, okay. Yeah. So whenever we add movie, we're going to await this. So we're going to say const add result is equal to that. Okay. And ultimately we'll just return that. Add result. But before we return that, we are going to call. So we're going to say const movies equals await this dot get movies. And then we'll do this dot set state, passing it movies. So we'll update that in state. And that should do it. All right, so let's put in another date, 2/27, 2019. these are expensive. Well, that's interesting. What happened? Did we get something over here? No, that's fine. So we're getting our console log from line 63. So everything's coming over. What's happening? Well, let's go over to our cluster and see if it actually got written to the database. So I guess that's a good thing to check. So what, we should have 4 documents now. So we have 4 documents. It's in there. It's still not updating things correctly. But if we go in here and we edit this, we can see that this is now being stored as a double. So that's nice. Okay. Well, let's do one more thing. I'll debug that later. But let's remove a movie. So we need another function to say delete movie. And that is just, we only need the ID of the movie. Oops. And in similar fashion, we are going to do return this.mongodb. And I'm going to copy this stuff because we need to get down to the collection. And we're going to call delete one. And that is going to take a query object. And I'm going to make that underscore ID so we can call delete one on underscore ID. We're going to return that just like we are with add. Yeah, because we're going to have to call, we're going to have to update this state afterwards. But this is you know how easy it is to delete an item. So we need to pass this in as what to the to, where is it at? Okay, here, movie list. And so we need to pass it handle movie delete. That's going to be equal to this dot handle, or this dot delete movie. And then we can go into here, into our movie list, and we can actually use this last cell and put in a button. So we got movies, and now we have handle movie delete. And I'm going to add button up here. And we're going to add a button, and there's a way I can add a red button for delete. So if we go back over to Semantic UI, button. Okay. I think that's under variations. Negative button. So that is just add negative. That's fine. Negative. We'll say delete. And this is going to have an onClick. And that is going to equal a function. And we're going to call handle movie delete. And we're going to pass it movie.id underscore ID. So boom, boom, boom. If we save that, we go back over. You know what? I'm still not telling it to refresh the movie list. So let's go back over here. So delete movie, pass an ID. Let's await this. Oop. And we're going to do the same thing here. Let's see if that works. So our movie tracker is, and I have a typo on line 26. 26, that should just be movie. We'll let that refresh again. I think the streaming is making things really hard for my computer. All right, so we have all these delete buttons in, and I'm going to delete this first one, so the one with movie title. And I'll click the button. Oh, see, that it worked that time. So I deleted it. And if we go back over to the MongoDB Atlas cluster and do a refresh and load the documents, we can see that we're down to 3. So the only thing that we have left to do is to update it, but I need to build maybe like a modal or something to do with that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. So for CRUD, we did create. Anyway, so we did find, we did insert, and we did delete. And maybe next week we'll take care of update, and I'll do a little work on the front end or behind the scenes on building out that modal that we'll use, or however we're going to handle updating the movie. But pretty simple to get started. Very few kind of functions. So we wrote kind of 3 functions, and they all used the MongoDB instance that we created. So if you use MongoDB like in the shell, then it's really easy to kind of translate it to using Stitch in the remote Mongo client. So I will work on getting this video uploaded and get the repo out tagged with what we did today. And see you next time. Bye.